Salutation shades, and welcome back to your one-stop shop for all things strange and unusual, talking with shadows. The conversation everyone has, but no one wants to admit to. Here with your host, Vic Whaley.
And a very threatened Marcus D, as I see the disgusting substance that Vic has brought into our recording studio today.
Something foul this way comes as Ellie. Ellie actually had this idea. She saw Mountain Dew Flaming Hot at the gas station, and she bought a bottle and said, "Oh, this is for you and Marcus to try during the next episode." And, you know, it's coming from Ellie, so we kind of have to do it.
It looks like someone pissed blood just straight into a bottle.
It really does. And since you've mentioned it, let's just go ahead and pour some out. Just as a note, I don't like sugary sodas or Mountain Dew.
You didn't even get the zero sugar. Actually, I think Mountain Dew.
Is there a zero sugar
I don't know if
kind?
there is or not. I think a Mountain Dew Flaming Cheeto Zero Sugar is some franken food that I just do not want.
I'm just pouring out a little bit. I'm a little worried that this is going to kill us, and I don't want to die this early in the episode.
Oh, ouch!
Because we've got a lot of cool stuff to talk about today.
It smells like a slur. It just smells offensive. Oh my gosh.
Oh, okay, cheers. Cheers.
Ew, cheers. Oh.
Truthfully, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Because at first I'm trying to figure out, like, how is this not just, like, Major Melon?
Oh, God, the aftertaste.
And then it lingers.
Oh, God. It tricks you into thinking it's okay.
It starts like Major Melon and then ends, like, tasting like an STD.
I'm just going to chug the rest. I'm going to chug the rest just to get over it.
Oh, God. Bottoms up.
Oh, Mountain Dew, why? Beer. We're drinking Killian's today, and we're drinking it fast.
Oh gosh. It tastes like the devil pissed into Major Melon. That's what it tastes like.
Sweet mother of God beer. Save my life.
Using beer as a chaser.
Yes. I also sprayed beer over everything.
Yeah, I like how we're using alcohol as a chaser for soda.
That's some bad soda.
I would rate that 1 out of 5 meth heads.
Whoever came up with this idea, they need to be punished. Someone needs to track them down and punish them.
I wouldn't if they told me that this was some sort of rejected Major Melon, like something happened in the process. They're like, we've got 30 million of these bottles. So I don't know what to do with these things. And then they're just gonna be like, someone's like, just call it Flaming Cheetos, and they will just people will drink it on a dare. They'll drink it on podcasts, probably. I bet.
Okay, we ready to get into some? I need some comments to cleanse my palate.
Yeah,
the Killian's is helping. The Killian's is helping though.
All right. Oh no. I feel like I'd be sick. Okay, so if you didn't, this is a conspiracy. That's what this is. So if you didn't check out our last episode, we talked about the Conspiracy Iceberg, and we had moved down into Tier 4, talking about all sorts of bizarre conspiracies related to the government, SCPs, and what have you. It's a great episode. Go check it out.
Are you going to die? You
the
look like you're going to die.
Doesn't go away. I feel like it's a permanent STD in my mouth. It's that gross.
Chronic sufferer of my flaming hot Mountain Dew.
I might have some more creative comments when we get to the patron sections. Because I have to be more vulgar. It's disgusting. Anyway. Here we go. Abs Rex, the Dark Phoenix, said, "Good to know you didn't go down the wrong rabbit hole." That's what she said. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist being like pink in the eyes, and I just couldn't resist.
It's always hard to figure out the rabbit hole on these. Like, there's one that I'm talking about today where I found 4 different possible meanings for what the conspiracy is, and I'm going to talk about all of them.
Yeah. Ira Ono said, "I like pronouncing it Raleigh. or whatever, like Raleigh, it's insidious in its common facade.
Oh yeah, no, I actually love to talk on this topic. The cities and the names of Lovecraft came up with. He was actually once interviewed about how to pronounce some of them, because basically some of the readers had been reading it one way, some of them had been reading the others, and he basically said it's an alien tongue. Pronounce it however you want. There's no wrong answer, and I actually love that.
I would not be surprised if what he did was H.P. Lovecraft was losing in a game of Scrabble, so he just started making up shit as he was going. He's like, Raleigh. Have you ever heard the ancient city of Raleigh below the depths where Cthulhu lived? What are you talking about?
I usually say Rolia or Rolier, and I kind of like both, and I kind of use them interchangeably just to confuse people.
All right, and then the last comment that we got, Azertanium, I think I said that right, said, the government having a hand in SCPs goes along with a popular theory that the government quietly boosts or even creates conspiracies to cover up what they're really doing, or to create so much noise that it's impossible to tell what's real and what's not. For example, in Roswell, they had an experimental device used to detect nuclear explosion crash lands, and they let the UFO theory take over to cover up what really happened.
I would totally 100% believe that the government's signal boosting and false flagging all sorts of stuff. Like, that is right in their wheelhouse. I 100% believe that.
Yeah, like, I would, like, the whole time, whenever the whole thing with the government's about to release UFO files, what do they do? Every single like paranormal podcast or UFO podcast was like, oh, what are they gonna release? It's so cool. I'm like, you really think they're gonna let out anything that's either A, real, or B, you know, like I mean, seriously, like, dude, it was just shocking to me. Like, of course they're not gonna let out the real stuff, and they would be absolutely cool to just flood the information, like the web, with just false information.
Hell, as far as we know, the conspiracy iceberg was made up just to throw us all off course and keep us busy talking about it.
Why can't we get that job? Why can't like a year ago when I was looking to change jobs, I'm searching through Indeed, and why can't I find like government conspiracy creator? Like, why can't they post that on Indeed? We would do phenomenal at that job.
And yes, we would actually be very good at that. But on the other hand, I feel like if they posted that on Indeed, that would kind of defeat the purpose. Yeah. I think people would figure it out.
If they did, well, I want to know where they post these things. I mean, cats are us. Humanity's not really in control of anything. We're all being mind controlled by our cats.
I think that there's actually some truth there.
The U.S. government's stealing all of their good mail. That's why we only get the bad. That's why we only get the bad mail, and it's all being shipped to Washington D.C. And that's why we can't get into the good stuff.
Remember how when you were a kid, sometimes relatives would just send you money, and as you grow, that slowly stops? Well, if your relatives are still sending you the money, the government's just taking it.
No one actually is literate. Like, everybody just reads books differently, and we're all just really good guessers and stuff. Everybody reads something. Seriously,
we're all using context clues.
We're just turning all of these out, just like left and right.
Who here's actually read Beowulf? But we all generally know the idea, maybe.
Yeah, government, hire one camel society to come write your conspiracies. We'll sell out for that. Sure, why not? Okay. If you're a patron, though, we'll give you the real stuff.
Yeah, of course. That's how you break through the conspiracy fog, is you give us money. Okay. Right, so you want to do the description? Because I'm gung-ho about getting into my first one.
So now we're moving down into Tier 5, Animaster. Deeper in the conspiracy iceberg. Tier 5, Animaster said, this kind of knowledge is often hidden in plain sight and can be found in very ancient texts. After meticulous researchers that may take dozens of years. From this point on, sane people have a hard time even understanding most of these concepts. The journey starts here.
Okay, so for those of you who know me particularly well, it should not be hard to look at this and pick one that Vic is definitely going to go nuts over. I want to see if Marcus can guess it offhand. No, I did think very hard about cat nuns, but no.
Well, I was shocked.
What's my favorite monster?
The interdimensional Bigfoot.
No, wait, what?
What are you talking about? Which one?
Roadside trolls and highway trolls.
The ones that are said. Dude, there's 3 columns of conspiracies that I'm looking at.
I've always had this weird obsession with trolls, and as soon as I saw that one, I'm like, I have to do this. And I kind of went down the rabbit hole on this, and figuring out exactly what they mean by highway trolls and roadside trolls is very hard to figure out. And I got a lot of different answers when I started digging into this, so I decided to go into as many as I can. Some of them, I got more information, some a little less, but I wanted to start talking about that topic first, and you cool with that?
Sure. Let's dive into that one.
Okay. The first form of roadside troll that I came across, and I think this is the most likely one that they meant, is basically this reoccurring character that's seen by truckers and other roadway travelers. Basically this large, kind of like hugely large, hunched over, bearded, strange-looking man in tattered clothes with a peg leg or sometimes with a walking stick. And viewers seem to have a hard time figuring out, am I seeing a human or am I seeing a monster? Which is not actually that far off then with the description of like Scandinavian trolls. They kind of do look rather human-y. But basically that's where I want to start. There is this reoccurring trend of people spotting this strange-looking individual that looks vaguely inhuman. Like I said, tattered clothes, long beard. And there have been some people who looked into this. The first major account comes from 1981, a man by Gary Durbin, who is a long-haul truck driver. First was, he was in Arkansas. And as he's pulling away from a gas station, he sees this strange big man with the peg leg just kind of milling around near the forest. And he usually is seen pretty near the forest. And he looks at him, kind of remarks on that. That's a very odd sight, but I guess whatever. I have a job to do. Let's get rolling. He drives quite a ways down the road and gets to his next truck stop where he's going to pull over. He pulls over, refills his gas, does his normal stuff, probably hits the bathroom, and gets out to the parking lot. And what do you think he sees?
The same troll-like man.
Yeah, the same strange man.
Eating the Waffle House.
I don't think he was eating the Waffle House. As I understand, he was just standing there. The thing is, this is not a regular description of the sort of person you just see. Just even seeing a grizzled person that looks, vaguely inhuman, but then throw on things like the peg leg, the tattered clothes, things like that.
Do you meet a lot of homeless people? I'm not putting homeless people down.
When was the last time you saw someone with a peg leg?
Well, I mean, it's in Scandinavia. I mean,
no, this is America. This is in Arkansas.
Oh, sorry, you said 18-something. What was the year?
1981.
Oh, I thought you said 1881. I'm sorry, with a peg leg. Well, I guess the peg leg's pretty out there, I guess. But like everything else, I mean, just seems to be like par for the course for people in dire poverty.
Well,
I'm not putting them down.
People in dire poverty, they can look more grizzled, more shabby, but most people don't look at them and question, is that a human?
That's true.
You can usually pretty quickly identify that.
That's true. Generally, just feel bad and see a person that's hard on their luck. I get it.
But like this sort of description is fairly unique. I've spent a lot of time working with the homeless, and I've never seen someone to meet this description, let alone twice, and in a situation where he really shouldn't have been able to travel that far in the given period of time. Gary had actually considered, is it possible that maybe he's a hitchhiker, someone picked him up and then passed him on the way and dropped him off at this truck stop? And he was considering that. But over his career as a truck driver, he sees him 5 more times across many different states. So this is a repeated occurrence, and it's not limited to him.
I wonder whether or not I feel like attributed to like being either good luck, bad luck, or something.
Oh, you're getting ahead of me.
Is it like an omen or something to it? Because if I'm a trucker and I'm seeing something like that, I'm gonna start connecting the dots somewhere.
There is a omen angle to this. In the book Strange Highways by a man named Coleman, he compiles all the sightings of this strange troll-like entity. And he starts to go through an examination of it and basically concludes he believes it's an omen. And I'm going to tell you another story that was collected by him that kind of casts a little more light on the omen idea. A woman by the name of Barb in Illinois is basically, she's going off to the mall, and it's a bit of a drive there. She goes by, picks up her friend, and starts making her way to the mall. Mm-hmm. As they're driving, they see this strange man. They particularly are like, is that even human? And they're so shocked by it, they have to pull over and stop and kind of talk this out for a little bit. They decide to turn around and just go home. They arrive just in time to find her son so badly injured that his leg bone is so broken so badly, the bone is now penetrating through the skin, and he is incapable of getting up and finding help. So basically, they had to pick him up and get him to the hospital. Now, they would have arrived back 3 hours later than that, if not for seeing this strange person getting shaken up and returning early. So one of the speculations is that this is a person who basically appears as a warning, something to shock you, maybe change your path, direction, things along those lines. And it's even theorized by the author that he might appear to shock you awake, as many of the sightings do occur to truck drivers, who often are, doing long hauls and in our difficult states of mind. Actually, exceptionally liminal state of mind. As they're traveling, they're kind of in that permanent transitional period while they're on the road. And his theory is that, kind of like, say, the Flannel Man, he appears as some form of omen. And I kind of feel like a lot of things about this case remind me of the Flannel Man.
Mm-hmm. Well, it definitely strikes me as something that people have a hard time. And if you start seeing something just repeatedly that's strange, you're going to the human brain just has to connect it to something. So, it definitely does, though, to me, have sort of a Flannel Man-esque vibe to it. Because a lot of the stories that I've had where people have been interviewed by the Flannel Man, generally there's something that befalls a lot of other people. Either someone's just died, or they think they're about to die, or they get sick, and things like that. So it definitely seems to be an offshoot of that.
Unfortunately, sightings of this specific highway troll have dried up, mainly because, Coleman stopped researching it, published his book, and moved on to other things. So there wasn't this one guy out there collecting these stories. It's generally assumed that likely he's still being cited, but we just don't have anyone out there that's a researcher just kind of doggedly collecting these stories on the subject.
I've always been so fascinated by people whose whole jobs are to, travel across America and stuff like that. So, military, you see military, truckers, just transit people, the homeless. There's so many interesting, rich paranormal stories that come from just people's travels that they talk about, that I think that now would be something that would be just incredibly cool to look at.
Oh, yeah. I always felt that people like truckers are very, very high-quality viewers, as they get to travel so much and stay in as much of an alert state as they can when it comes to cryptids spotted on the roadsides, which is actually another one of the things that people attribute to being what is meant by highway trolls. I'm going to go ahead and start passing on to possibility 2 on highway trolls. One is that strange creatures are just sighted near highways, often picked up by truckers. Not picked up oh, you going my way, Bigfoot, but, seen by truckers. For example, around the land between the lakes. Mm-hmm. Many people doing long drives through there will see pig squatch. If you've never heard of pig squatch, it is probably what you're imagining.
Yep.
It is basically a giant humanoid pig-like person. And there's tons of these particular, strange one-of encounters that occur with many cryptids just being spotted along the roadside. Think about many of the major Mothman sightings. Where were they sighted?
Right, yeah, around roads, bridges.
Yeah, around roads.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't really shock me so much about, a lot of people encountering some of these, these highway troll type things, because a lot of highways are built through things like forests, major animal, migration places,
Wildlife corridors.
Yeah, where people are traveling. You see stuff even in oh my gosh. So there's this whole even new phenomenon now, with engineering, with city engineering, where they'll literally build bridges over the roads for animals literally to just walk across so they don't disrupt traffic. We're seeing stuff like that, so it doesn't shock me that humanity is encountering some of these creatures just on the highway.
Yeah, and that's one of the areas where we tend to engage very deeply with nature. It's not that often people are going into deeper portions of woods, but they might be crossing a road that does go right through a deeper portion of a woods.
But do you know one of the really weird things? And I think, honestly, to me, I think this is more of a conspiracy than just highway trolls, people seeing highway trolls. I don't see a whole lot of stories where people run into one of these things. Where they just driving their car. I mean, 'cause seriously, how many times have you been driving along and you just run into a deer? You run into a moose. You run into some coyote. You run over something just on the side of the road. And there's just so few stories. Like I can't even recall one just coming to the top of my head where someone just runs into one of these things.
You mean just runs into a cryptid?
Yeah, like with their car.
Oh, you mean like literally runs into
it with their car?
I thought you meant like just running across,
running over it.
I've heard of a few of someone accidentally like kind of side hitting a dogman or a Bigfoot, but they are obscure, and I can only really think of those two. On times where someone hits it, my assumption is that they're either just more perceptive or more intelligent.
Like we run into people, like people.
They might be more perceptive than people. That's always a possibility.
Maybe, but I mean,
they're smarter too.
Well, I think that's part of the conspiracy. I mean, to me, I think that's part of this conspiracy that most people don't talk about. Is that why are there not more stories of people literally just running over one of these things? I mean, really, if you think about it too, how hard would it be to do a story, like even if you were trying to cover it up, where, I was driving one day, I run over a Bigfoot, and then Men in Black showed up in a hazmat suit to cover it up and cart away the body.
Let me ask you...
To even just lie about it.
Let me ask you a question. Have you been driving down the road, saw a carcass on the ground you couldn't identify, and then stopped to check to see if it was an unknown creature?
I mean, sometimes you think that it's an unknown creature. I've also thought it was kind of weird. It always seems like roadkill gets hit on the side of the road.
Wait, but have you ever actually stopped to confirm that it wasn't?
Why would I stop on the highway?
I've done it. Oh. This is something I've done where I've seen a really weird roadkill and was like, is that a cryptid? Right. Okay, we're pulling over. We're pulling over and examining this. Unfortunately, I'm usually traveling with Ellie. Mm-hmm. And Ellie is very good at things like taxonomy and taxidermy and things like that. And I spend a lot of time in the woods. Usually we can parse out what it actually is. And we've never found a cryptid dead on the side of the road. But we've checked before.
But you don't even find it kind of weird that it's not even in the zeitgeist for stories?
It's definitely not a major story point. Because like I said, I've only heard a few.
Maybe more of a conspiracy?
Ooh. Or maybe every time someone does or hits one, it ends up getting up, killing them, and driving off with their car, and that's the people disappearing in our national highways.
Look, screw Tier 5 telling me the journey starts here. The journey starts with one candle. Talking with shadows. That's where the real journey starts,
Dude,
people.
You almost made me spit beer all over everything.
Well, no, that's what you guys get for coming here, because, I mean, even if you, if you looked up a lot of people, doing, videos on this, they'll just talk about, trolls on the side of the road being, weird stuff you see out the corner of your eye, and then they'll just leave it at that. But this particular, we took this and we, you talked about multiple theories, and then
I've got two more.
I mean, I brought up to the conspiracy. We're 22 minutes in. Okay, cool.
Okay. I'll make these last two fast. The next one is that shared highway hallucinations, where people, due to long-term driving, are hallucinating things, but other people are hallucinating the same thing in the same area. Now, this is one of the descriptions that I found for what is meant by this. But I didn't find much backing when I tried to go down the rabbit hole with it.
It's mass hysteria?
That is mass hysteria. Well, the thing is, mass hysteria, you have to have kind of a shared experience, but two people driving in the same area who aren't directly communicating should not be capable of hallucinating the same thing, since they're not having any sociological conversation.
That is pretty true. Now, that is pretty true. The fact that nobody's being able to talk to each other does kind of strike me as kind of odd.
It is
that they're seeing something like this,
but that is how it was described to me. I couldn't find anything as far as examples and stuff along these lines. Did you happen to look into this one?
No. I went with a totally different. I looked into a different conspiracy.
Okay, but like I said, I didn't strike pig gold, and with the last one, I think this is just someone being wrong. Okay, the final version of this conspiracy I found is that toll booths are troll booths. And that basically, symbolically, in the old world, there were trolls that would shake you down for money when you tried to cross areas. But the thing is, since we don't have trolls anymore, we need something to symbolically, take up that role for some reason. And toll booths are the modern day symbolic troll. I don't think this is the right answer. This sounds silly.
That sounds like something the government would come up with. No. It's not the government that's taking your money here at toll booths.
It's the trolls.
That's what it is. Don't blame the government.
Blame the
trolls. Blame the trolls. It's their fault.
This version of it, I didn't find much on it outside some people saying that that's what is meant by it, but I kind of have a feeling that's not correct. And also, everything I read into it didn't make sense. Like, no one could explain to me why we still need like someone to be taking our money when we're going along the road. It's like, are there actual like living trolls in the highway administration being like, I need my money still? They're crossing my bridges without giving me money. Like I didn't get like a good explanation on why this is important. Yeah, sure, toll roads are annoying, but I don't think that that's what they're talking about here.
No. It's that the trolls are extorting the government to have these tolls to give them money. They're like, you're gonna give some of these tolls to give us money, or we're gonna wreck the place up. That's what the government is doing.
Under every toll booth is a troll cave, and when you give them the money, they just drop it into the cave, and the trolls down there counting it. It's the agreement that they stay underground, and we'll drop money to them.
Well, when you see them on the side of the road, that's just them going to the bank. That's just them going. Let's go and collect payday. That's what that is.
There we go. Conspiracy solved. Conspiracy solved.
We figured it out.
Sorry, I ate a lot of time talking about that.
No, that's a good one. No, one of the ones that I thought that was really weird that I wanted to talk about was Max Spires. The death of Max Spires is a really interesting conspiracy that I thought that was really interesting for a couple of different reasons. One, so if you don't know who Max Spires is a UFO conspiracy theorist that died in July of 2016. He was a pretty prominent conspiracy theorist that often talked out against the British government. He made a lot of comments like, that the British I think sometimes it was either aliens or it was the government that had like made him into this like super soldier.
Didn't he claim to have been kidnapped at a really early age or something?
Yep. And then he was made into this like this super soldier, and then he only needed like a trigger word, and that would activate him, like he's the Manchurian candidate. And he was a pretty erratic guy. Leading up to his death in 2016, he was about to go to this conference to announce, like supposedly it was like a breakthrough and connect these elites and say that like they're behind a bunch of stuff. Leading up to it, he becomes a whole lot more erratic than what people used to know him as, and he's texting his mother saying, your boy's in trouble. If something happens to me, investigate. He was like, I didn't get Clinton, I didn't get Epstein. Just look into it. And he was found the day before, or a couple days before the conference.
Wait, quick question before we go on.
Sure.
So, and I didn't research this one. I just know the surface information. Mm-hmm. So he claims to have been kidnapped and trained at a young age, but is still in contact with his mother.
Yeah.
Does his mother confirm him disappearing for a long time or something?
No. In no way, shape, or form does she do that. But he claimed that he was abducted. He claims that he was abducted, and like there's issues with time lapses, is what he talks about, and things like that, and gets into it. That's why she doesn't know. But no, his mother never really admits to anything like that.
So like he was trained outside of time or something, outside of like the normal continuity. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for clearing that up for me.
So he's in Warsaw. So he's in Poland for a convention. Okay, and the day before the convention, he's found dead on his friend's couch, having vomited this black substance out of his mouth.
Okay.
Yeah. The Polish authority, like his friend, calls an ambulance, takes him to a hospital where he's pronounced dead, but they don't report it to the authorities.
Okay.
That he died. They don't report it to anybody else. And then he gets taken away. Then his body gets taken back to London. And there's a whole bunch of suspicious stuff that's surrounding his death. Like, I know autopsy was done at the time of his death. An autopsy was done, I think a month later, after the fact.
I know I've said this before, but okay.
Yeah, way after the fact. And then they tried to say that he overdosed on drugs.
By any chance, did anyone describe the smell of what he was releasing, like the vomit?
No, there was I don't see. They only described it as this weird black substance that he vomited up. There is suspicions that he might have been doing drugs, but then again, there's a lot of people that also think that this is somehow slander and that they're just trying to cover this up. I mean, if you're a heroin addict, which is what he was reported to be, then supposedly, like, if you're taking, like, black heroin, like black tar heroin or whatever, then you may end up vomiting up some sort of black substance because of it. And then, it's later, people try to accuse him of being schizophrenic and saying that's the reason why he's paranoid and claiming he has these powers and people are out to get him.
I mean, it's awfully strange that he would suddenly die so oddly right before he's about to out a bunch of people and then it being investigated so peculiarly. But my first thought is this. I'm trying to remember if there's certain like tells to vomit color on what's going on. And I want to say, and guys, I'm not a forensic biologist or something, or I'm not a dead body expert, whatever they're called. But I want to say like that's adding red and brown, which means one of the things that can happen is you can have this sort of renal leak into your stomach where when your vomit will have kind of a brownish color. And I want to say like black is you are bleeding and you have renal in there. Because like the brown from the feces reversing into your stomach and then the red from the blood mixing with the already colors of your normal bile and stuff. I want to say that that's one of the things black means is that you're both bleeding into it and there's a reversal, which means your system is going through intense levels of failure.
Oh, yeah, and absolutely. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other weird stuff surrounding his death, too. Like the fact that they wouldn't let his family see the body. They tried to discourage the family.
That's sussy as hell.
Yeah, right. And that to this day, the Polish government still hasn't released information on his death to the family.
That seems odd to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know enough about European law when it comes to body recovery.
Yeah, they say they can't release the information without his consent when he's dead.
Well, how do they expect you to get that? A Ouija board?
Right.
You can't sign documents through a Ouija
You gotta
board.
pull out my first Ouija board. Like, I feel like if they're gonna say that they can't do that as consent, I should be able to pull out a Ouija board and just be like, "Oh, here it is. Yes, I can."
I feel like you need a legal Ouija board where you can attach a pin to the oh god, what's that thing? It starts with a P. The thing that moves across it. You're the Ouija board expert.
I'm the Ouija. You mean the dial with the little magnifying glass?
It's not a dial. It has
Pendulum?
a name. The Pala. It starts with a P. You guys know what I mean. But I feel like you need one of those where you can attach like a pin to that to sign your name and stuff to legal documents.
And what's really weird though is like Max Spires is held up as this guy in the conspiracy world as like an example of somebody that's been like Epstein or Clinton or however you want to, whatever adjective, adverb you want to use for it. But you know the one thing that struck me that nobody's ever talked about?
What?
Max Spire.
Oh yeah, no.
like the name, just like Max Spires.
When I initially looked into it, like, cause I had to look into about all these to figure out which one I wanted to do. And I looked into it just enough to know I don't think I want to do specifically this one. But I'm like, that name is definitely not a real name. Is that his birth name? Did you ever?
No, it's Maxwell Bates Spires is what his name is. But everybody just calls him Max. But like, he just goes by Max Spires. I'm like, first of all, that sounds like the most fictitious name that I've ever heard.
It sounds like the name of a spy in a novel. It really does.
It sounds like the name of like a really bad, super soldier spy.
I mean, doesn't that lend some credibility that his name was actually Max Spires?
Max Spire.
So,
like, MI6 secret agent gotten from Wish.
Do you think like got him from Wish? We just ordered a whole bunch of stuff off Wish. It's cheap and it was all stuff that's cheap enough that if we get like half of it correct, we'll be fine.
No, you know why they call it Wish? It's because when you get it, you wish you didn't do it. Like that's the reason why they call it Wish.
But so, do you think there's credibility here? Because some of the things that made me think there might be something to this one is, well, his death does seem like an awfully convenient timing considering what he's about to do.
Like the thing that I think that this is tied to is this sort of bigger, broader conspiracy that kind of makes me mad that really never comes up on the Conspiracy Iceberg. And we've kind of talked about it before, but just the complacency that we've gotten to people being taken out by the government. Like, people will just casually believe, oh, yeah, it's a thing where the Clintons will take you out, like, or the government will take you out if you know too much. And everybody just casually just says this. And everybody just lets it. Now, I'm not asking for any sort of call to action, but does anybody else not find that's just sort of weird that we've just become so complacent with that?
Well,
that's
the thing is, they cover their tracks just well enough that nothing is confirmed. And then beyond that, like, are you really going to like start like what a big protest off of probably this or maybe this happened?
Like, I don't think it's
like sure Epstein. Like if it was going to happen, it would have happened with Epstein. No one believes the freaking Epstein story.
And then nobody does anything. And I'm not saying do anything. I want to make that clear. I'm not calling for anything in any way, shape, or form. But
write your congressman. If you're going to do something, write your congressman.
Yeah, write your congressman or your lord or whatever, or legislator, whatever it is where we're listening from. Like,
do you think people are listening to us from feudal Japan? Right,
House of Lords. Like from England?
Yeah, I know England has a House of Lords.
Culturally competent, Vic.
Like, I'm familiar with it, but does the House of Lords actually handle these sort of matters?
No,
I didn't think they did. Like, I don't think it'd be helpful.
They're like senators, but like as compared to like over here, but like it's the lower house that does it. But I'm just saying, it's just one of those things within just the realm of Max Spires, within the realm of this conspiracy that just sort of plays into this weirder, bigger conspiracy.
Do you think it's connected to Max Headroom?
No, I think what we're about to do is make our own level of the conspiracy iceberg. I think that's what's about to happen. That's what we're about to get to. But
I mean, this Max Spires guy. What's your thoughts? Real, legit? Where do you think we are?
I mean, it's hard. I mean, it doesn't. Okay. I mean, I think that if it came out that he was a schizophrenic drug addict, which is you could totally equate a lot of it. It's not like that we have not ran into people working in mental health that believe that they were like super soldiers or that the government was after them that also did drugs.
Yeah, that's true. We ran into many of them because the thing is many drugs cause mania
and paranoia.
Mania can lead to delusions of grandeur. Since it also leads to paranoia, combined delusions of grandeur with paranoia and mania, you got a spy novel there.
Right. And the fact that the Polish government won't release the details, I'm not bashing any Eastern European governments, but one of my good friends from college, Jordan, who's lived over in Poland and around there, not the hugest fan of a lot of Eastern European governments. That may be one thing that we kind of take for granted is transparency when it comes to law enforcement over here in the United States. That could be, an issue for it, but so it doesn't really shock me. Now, do I think that he was legit onto something? Yeah, I mean, I believe that if you dive deep enough into a conspiracy, I think you will find something.
Do you know what I'm almost wondering? Since this guy, I think we both agree, there's some sussy things about this guy. Like there are some things that.
Oh yeah.
What if he was accidentally going to name a name? What if this guy was sketchy as hell, making it up, but on his list of things that he was going to do, they realized he was going to accidentally out something real.
Like he just accidentally stumbled upon something.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, like, okay, if me and you were going to like make a imaginary list of 20 people in the United States that are involved in this secret organization, I bet you we could name quite a few people that would likely be actually on it.
Like, I don't know if I want to name names right now because I don't want to end up like Max Spired.
Who expired?
Oh my gosh!
Oh man, that was so bad. Tasty, his family.
Terrible.
I'm sorry, guys.
Oh,
I'm just a sucker for a good pun. It sucked me in.
I mean,
that's my bad.
We also just could be following suit to like the whole thing where the conspiracies where you just don't believe anything is real. You're like Max Spires. That sounds like a terrible made up name.
Truthfully, I think there's a possibility here, given the circumstance of his death. And truthfully, I think if like they didn't act on it, it probably would have gone by without as much notice.
Yeah.
But I also think the secret government, whatever powers that be, don't always make the best decisions.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else you wanted to talk on Max Spires on?
More or less, no. I've already just brought it back that it's just kind of weird that we've just sort of gotten complacent that this will happen to you. You really want to know where the journey starts here? That thought probably is a journey starts here kind of thought. But I also think it's kind of weird that they're going to call that, but then they're going to put the Crank incident where Crank 3 was taken out of production. Like that's some sort of deep conspiracy. Okay.
I have one that I'm pretty much positive is real. The Panopticon.
Panopticon.
Did you look into this one?
Which one was the Panopticon?
The Panopticon was a basically a structure / design created by Jeremy Bentham in the 18th century.
Oh, yeah.
Where pretty much it's basically a design where if you're watching prisoners, he had designed it for a jail where you can have many prisoners being guarded by one jailer, because the way the area is set up, it makes every prisoner feel like they could be being viewed at any given time, and at no time can they tell if or if not they're being viewed, but they know there's always the possibility that they are. Now, the actual Panopticon design I don't think is that important, and I don't think that's why it's on the Conspiracy Iceberg. But Jeremy Bentham did talk about how this could be adapted to other things. He talked about it could be adapted to like schools and hospitals. And I think someone took that lead and realized this could be adopted to government. And I think that's more or less where we live now. We live in the damn Panopticon right now. We all know at any given time with the modern technology, we could be being viewed, especially when we're online. And this is what I wanted to talk to you about.
Oh, yeah. No, well, the thing is I think that we've sort of even elaborated that this is a true thing, that we are being spied upon by your phone tracks how much you move.
Yep.
Your phone tracks how often you use it and at what times. Your TV, like it connects to smart TVs and can actually, your phone can send information for how much you use your TV. That's not even a conspiracy. That's real stuff.
Yeah, pretty much if you're not naked in a cave, they can figure out what you're doing at any given time. Right. And even if you're naked in a cave, if they're really interested, they have technology to find you anyway.
And it alters your behavior. No, I think that's 100% a real thing. I mean, it's so funny because it reminds me of like that scene from Clerks. I think it's from Clerks where like the clerk shop is just laying down a thing with his girlfriend behind the counter and he just got change up there. And she's like, "Why do you do that?" He goes, "People see change out. They think they're being watched. So they're being honest and they don't steal anything." Like it's sort of like this weird like conspiracy halo effect thing where like like they found like where people will act a certain way if they feel like they're being watched.
And we live in a state where at any given time we feel like we're being watched.
We know we're being watched.
Us probably, yeah. But yeah. But okay. I guess my first question on this particular subject matter is this. Do you think that this is an idea that was actually built upon the idea of the Panopticon and then built into our modern society? Because we all know this is where we are now. I feel like the discussion isn't, are we at that point? I think we all know we're at that point. Mm-hmm. Now, the question that I have is, do you think it's a intentional design?
I think that we have moved. I think that we did, but I think that we are moving past that. I think that we're in the next step after that.
Ooh, what's that?
Where the government doesn't want us acting differently as though we're being watched. They want to see how we act normally, forces of be, whoever you want to say, the elite, Illuminati, whoever. So that way they can use that information. They can use that information for sorts of things. Like they don't want us to change our behavior because we're being watched. Maybe that's still around, sure, whatever. But
wait, let me guess. So the idea is this, that they want us to go back to now acting normal because that way they can now get down our patterns so they can make predictions on the future on us?
Yeah, and they can make money off of that. Mm-hmm.
The Beyond-Nopticon.
Yeah.
The idea that, oh, God. Now, this you just took a scary idea and added another heaping helping of scary on top.
Earmuffs. The journey starts here, motherfuckers. Like that's what I meant. That's why
you're in the last few minutes you can cuss.
Okay,
the YouTube algorithm doesn't check this far.
43 minutes in, you knew what you were getting. But I mean, I think that's a real thing. I think that we know we're being watched. We assume these things, so now we've got this sort of this state of just acting normally or whatever, air quotes, whatever, so that they can take that information and use that for whatever sorts of reasons.
I mean, with an advanced enough algorithm, you should be able to make general predictions about one's behavior that individual person could not make predictions about themselves, given that their psychology isn't that far from baseline psychology. Of course, this is something that's not going to predict an individual's basic movement, but would be something that could predict large trends in society.
So I'll throw a conspiracy out there. Here's an example of one. So your phone tracks how often you move, correct?
Yeah.
So your phone tracks how often you move. So think about it from this perspective of like, now we're all going to act a certain way because we assume we're being watched and we don't want to get busted by the cops, right? Because we want the cops coming to get us. But our phones track us for the purpose of being able to say how much we're moving around. So our phone, they know how much people in a given radius are moving around. That means they know how many cops they need. They actually need.
That's actually a pretty fair analysis, and that's information that they can retrieve very easily.
Correct. That's just movement that you how many people are just casually awake or moving around during certain times. That particular amount of information is incredibly important.
And most of us follow a fairly common pattern in our behavior. Like after we start setting behaviors, we tend to repeat those behaviors.
That's just the weirdest stuff,
I think it gets weirder.
I think it can too.
We're only on level 5. What's going to happen next week? What are we going to discover on level 6?
Jesus.
Maybe
that's the actual photo on tier 6.
Is it?
That's true. It could be like the lamb's actually Jesus, and Jesus is the lamb. It's weird. Who knows what it is?
I haven't looked ahead at level 6 yet.
No, I haven't. I was just scrolling down to see what the photo was that they used on the Conspiracy Iceberg. I mean, what's your overall thoughts like on just tier 5 in general? Like, do you think
there's hidden trends and they're starting to come out? Like, there's certain focuses that remain somewhat consistent within the iceberg, and I feel like it's trying to lead me to certain truths. Like, I feel like it's not as scattershot as it appears. I think it's actually funneling us towards specific things.
Right, maybe by the time that we get to tier, like, we can't understand like the bottom tier until we fully understand all the tiers above it.
No, I think it's a hidden pattern.
Oh, I think there's a hidden pattern. Things. I mean, I'm willing to try to see exactly like what the actual pattern is, but I mean, I think that maybe what it really is that it's trying to get you to find the conspiracy within the conspiracy, like Inception.
Quite possible. Also, I want to throw out some detail that I forgot about the troll from earlier. The guy from the first set of stories. He's like 6.5 feet tall. So he's like way taller than either of us, like way outside the baseline of height. I just forgot to mention that part.
Wait, tall. You're 6'4". I'm 6'3".
Yeah, but he's like 6'6", which that's a important 3 inches.
I guess. I mean, I guess. I mean, we're pretty tall, I guess. I mean, I think by the time that you're getting to tier 5, I think, and you're really starting to break some of these conspiracies down, I think that you're starting to see that certain conspiracies might be more of a branch to a larger conspiracy. And I think as you head further down the conspiracy iceberg, you sort that. I think that's what the real pattern is. I think that's what it is. It's almost sort of like, above it is the tier 1, 2, and 3 is like the fruit that leads you to the conspiracies, and then there's the leaves and the branches that lead you to maybe to a bigger conspiracy or something. By tier 5, that's what you're starting to see. Maybe you're starting to see the tree, where the branch actually goes. But again, that's the problem with the conspiracies. You may be following a branch forever. Who knows? I mean, you may never actually get to it. That's the hard part about conspiracies. But what do you guys think about some of the stuff that we talked today? Do you think that me and Vic were onto anything with some of the stuff that we were talking about, some conspiracies? Like, nobody's ever ran into one of these like cryptids. Is Max Spires real? Are they actually trying to make us be watched, but really actually secretly not wanting us to be watched?
Are troll boots controlled by trolls?
Are we in the conspiracy within the conspiracy type thing? Put your comments on that below. Tell us what you think. Leave us below comments too what some of your favorite conspiracies are. That definitely would be something that we would definitely love to see too. But again, if you like this video, don't forget to leave us a like, leave us a review, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date whenever we put out new content. But until next time, guys, keep believing.
Because we'll keep listening.
All right, guys, we're going to slide into the Pillow Talk segment of this podcast. If you want to check out the rest of this awesome podcast, all you got to do is go over to our Patreon and sign up for as little as $1 a month to get the rest of this awesome episode, as well as bonus episodes that we put up exclusively for our patrons. If you sign up to be $2 more of a month, you get to vote on the theme of the month, which currently right now has Underwater Mysteries currently winning, which is up right now.
Which surprises me 0%.
Yeah, I know. That definitely did surprise me that it just jumped ahead. But if you like to share the content to famous paranormal investigators, the apocalypse, or past life phenomenon, go sign up to be a patron and let your voice be heard. All right. We're going to hang out in the Conspiracy Iceberg Tier 5 a little bit more. And, you know, me and Vic were throwing up some different ideas for different ones that we wanted to go to, because the problem for us is if we go into just one, we'll just go on to it forever. And so that's
kind of like I did with Trolls in the first part.
Yeah, we just can't go literally over every single one because we just can't let anything go.
We got through like half the information I had on Trolls.
Yeah, you know, so we just can't let this go. So I threw around Cat Nuns. Cat Nuns was something that which is definitely something that I think that's funny. That throws out that there was literally in the 1800s there was this French comet of nuns that literally could understand.